U.S. President Donald Trump is threatening 100% tariffs on Canadian goods if the federal government goes through with a new trade deal with China.
President Donald Trump has threatened 100% tariffs on Canadian goods if Ottawa moves ahead with the trade deal with China.
U.S. President Donald Trump is threatening to impose a 100% tariff on all Canadian goods entering the United States.
The $25 million move that quietly reshaped Canada's Atlantic power. In global politics, the loudest headlines rarely reveal the most important moves. Real power shifts don't always come with breaking news banners or emergency press conferences. Sometimes they arrive quietly, signed into policy documents, approved in budget committees, discussed briefly, and then forgotten. Until years later, when the balance of power looks different. That's exactly what happened when Canada committed $25 million to strengthen and modernize the Port of Halifax. At first glance, it looked like infrastructure funding, a regional development decision, a routine economic upgrade, but in reality, it was something much deeper. It was positioning. To understand why this matters, you need to zoom out, far beyond Halifax, far beyond Canada, and look at the architecture of global trade itself. For decades, global shipping has revolved around predictable giants. Los Angeles for Pacific access, New York and New Jersey for Atlantic dominance. Houston for energy logistics. These ports became economic engines, not just because of geography, but because of scale and infrastructure. But the world in 2026 is not the world of 2006. Supply chains have fractured. Geopolitical rivalries have intensified. The pandemic exposed vulnerabilities no one wanted to admit existed. One blocked canal, one port shut down, one labor strike, and billions of dollars in global trade freeze overnight. Resilience is now more valuable than efficiency, and countries are responding. Halifax sits on Canada's eastern edge, geographically closer to Europe than any other major North American port. Ships from Rotterdam, Antwerp, or Hamburg can reach Halifax up to a full day, faster than they can reach many US ports. One day may not sound dramatic, but in global logistics, a 24-hour advantage is enormous, and it means faster turnover, lower fuel costs, reduced congestion, and improved supply reliability. When Canada injected $25 million into Halifax's port modernization, improving cargo capacity, digital logistics systems, and rail integration inland, it wasn't just upgrading infrastructure, it was upgrading strategic relevance. Because ports are not just economic tools, they are instruments of national leverage. Throughout history, the most powerful nations controlled trade routes. The British Empire dominated sea lanes. The United States secured the Panama Canal. China is expanding influence through the Belt and Road Initiative. Trade routes shape alliances. If your goods pass through my territory, you depend on my stability. If your economy relies on my ports, my political decisions affect you. Halifax may not rival the Panama Canal in size, but it plays a similar role in function, as a gateway. And gateways matter most when global systems feel unstable. After COVID-19 disrupted supply chains, Western governments began reassessing dependence on limited logistical hubs. Companies started diversifying routes. Governments began investing in secondary ports to reduce single-point failures. Canada saw an opportunity in that shift. Rather than trying to compete head-to-head with America's largest ports, Canada positioned Halifax as a complementary Atlantic alternative. Less congested, politically stable, strategically located. But there's another dimension rarely discussed. Climate change. As Arctic ice melts, northern shipping routes are gradually becoming navigable for longer periods each year. The Northwest Passage, long considered commercially unrealistic, is slowly entering serious economic conversations. If Arctic routes expand, Atlantic Canada's geographic value multiplies. Halifax becomes a transition point between emerging Arctic corridors and established Atlantic trade lanes. In that scenario, the port isn't just useful, it becomes indispensable. And in geopolitics, being indispensable is more powerful than being dominant. The Port of Halifax represents more than cranes and cargo containers. It represents Canada's attempt to redefine its place in a changing world. Not as a secondary extension of American trade, not as a passive participant in global commerce, but as a strategic Atlantic bridge connecting Europe, North America, and potentially the Arctic future. Whether this investment ultimately transforms the trade landscape remains to be seen. But one thing is clear. Countries that invest in infrastructure during periods of uncertainty position themselves for advantage when stability returns. And Canada, through Halifax, has quietly positioned itself. Not loudly, not aggressively, but strategically. Because in modern geopolitics, you don't always need to control the entire board. You just need to control the right squares. And sometimes, all it takes to rewrite trade dynamics is a $25 million move placed exactly where it matters most. Share your thoughts in the comments, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next analysis as developments unfold. Support the channel by liking the video, engaging in the discussion,